Senator Reid.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Madam Secretary and Ms. Flanagan. There has been throughout the morning, beginning with the chairman, a discussion of the Biden administration's policy on gas prices, oil and gas leasing, and you've mentioned some facts, and I'd just like to get them right back on the table if I could. And you may answer these questions, a yes or no, but Madam Secretary, is it true that in the first year of the Biden administration, we produced more oil from federal lands onshore and offshore than in any year in history?
Yes, Senator.
Is it true that oil companies have nearly 9,000 approved but unused drilling permits?
Yes, that's correct.
Is it true that there are more than 20 million acres of unused federal leases, 12 million onshore and 8 million offshore?
Yes.
Is it true that the oil companies aren't using roughly half of their onshore federal leases?
That's correct.
And is it true that oil companies aren't using roughly 75% of their offshore federal leases?
Yes, sir.
So it seems one conclusion is that even though there is ample capacity to drill, that the companies, for reasons related to the business, have decided they're not going to drill, or because of the price of oil is so high right now that they literally can make more money just extracting from existing wells and not increasing production, which would lower costs. Is that one possible analysis?
Well, I think there's a lot that goes into what the cost of fuel is, and I think there's a lot happening around the world that have caused fuel prices to go up.
No, I think there is, and I think also, too, we're at a moment where as the automobile industry announces that within 10 years or so they'll just sell electric cars. I think there's a lot of discussion among the boardrooms at hydrocarbon companies of do we really want to make billion-dollar investments? But I think these factors are beyond the administration's control. They're the decisions of the companies that are making them at the moment. I want to thank you for joining myself and all of my colleagues and delegations in the White House and Congressman Langevin and Cicilline last summer when you signed in a ceremony the formally establish the boundaries for the Blackstone River Valley National Historic Park, and in making it an official unit of the National Park Service. And thanks to the tireless work of the Park Service as well as state and local officials and volunteers, we've already received a recovery and revival of dozens of historic villages and along the river, kayaking, sports, hiking. But the Park Service still has a long way to go, as you well know. They have to acquire the old Slater Mill, which is literally the place where the Industrial Revolution began in the United States, complete its general management plan, build out administrative offices. I'm glad to see that the administration put a slight increase in the budget this year, but I'm convinced they're going to need more resources. So I would ask you to commit to work with me in my office to increase funding so that we can really tackle the establishment of this park.
Absolutely, and thank you, Senator. I was happy to join you for that issue. The 2023 budget includes $1.9 million for the park, and that would support fixed cost increases and staffing capacity, which I know is important during these times. We want the park to grow, and so there is a budget in there for that.
I would mention it runs into Massachusetts, so this is a two-state enterprise. And also, I must give credit to my predecessor, John Chafee, who really started this process many years ago, and he'd be very happy today. We've talked about offshore wind. Rhode Island has the only offshore wind project in the United States. It was built, and it was built very efficiently. We're generating power now for the entire island of Block Island, and actually excess power is going into our state grid. And we're also committed to purchase another 600 megawatts of offshore wind power. Indeed, the New York Bight Wind Energy area is talking about $4.4 billion sale of energy, hydro and energy power, wind energy power. One of the players in this whole process is BOEM, and they were very responsible and very responsive when we were doing our project. But they have to be very cognizant of other stakeholders, particularly fishermen. And this is an issue that I would ask your attention to. The BOEM released a draft fisheries mitigation guidance last month, but I think much more should be done. And can you indicate what other steps BOEM might take or will take to expedite the licensing of these projects?
Thank you for the question, Senator. And I know that BOEM takes this charge incredibly seriously. They do include the fishing industry in the leasing process and all the proposed projects that they do. They have stakeholder engagement consistently. Since 2008, BOEM has invested more than $70 million on environmental studies that address renewable energy issues, including developing fisheries, best management practices under these circumstances. I know that moving to clean energy or transitioning to a clean energy economy, it's not without important issues. So I know that BOEM cares deeply. The fishing industry is incredibly important, not only to the economy, but to the health of our country. And so, we're happy to speak with you about this if there's other ideas that you have, but I want to assure you that they are working very hard to make sure that the industry is fully engaged in the process and the projects that we are doing.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.